Hey, everybody. So yesterday, November 4th, today's November 5th. So yesterday, November 4th, was the LoudMouth MMA podcast 1 year anniversary. I want to say, thank you. I don't even, there's not much to say, really. But seriously, thank you. Thank you for letting me do this. I realize that, I'm not really anything. I'm just some dude, and everyone in the community who had been here for a lot longer than me, accepted me with open arms. For the most part, I had to pry myself into some others, but no, everyone accepted me with open arms, and it's just incredible. It's incredible to be able to do this, and as long as one person is listening to what I'm doing, I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep doing it. Fortunately, obviously we got more than one person, but the numbers don't mean anything at this point, and it's something I'm gradually getting more and more used to. That at the end of the day, I'm enjoying doing this, and if you enjoy doing something, then at the end of the day, whether it's making money or it's gaining steam or whatever, it's all, none of it matters. It just doesn't matter. What matters is that you enjoy doing the thing in the first place. And as soon as you stop enjoying it, then that's when you stop doing it. That's when you start going, well, is it making me money? And if it's making me money, then maybe I can last a little bit longer, right? That's when you start having those conversations. But honestly, I really, really love doing this, and getting a chance to meet guys, like Keith and Blake and Jeff, and obviously getting closer to my buddy Zach, who I do the Fight Companions with. Him and I have been friends for a very, very long time, but the closeness that we've now had since doing this podcast is incredible, and he's truly become one of my best friends, and it's because of this. And honestly, if people in the community hadn't embraced me, that would have never happened. So in some kind of weird way, right, the people who are listening to this podcast allowed me to get that much closer with Zach, but it's weird, and everything's kind of interconnected here, and all the interviews I've gotten a chance to do, and I know I talk about it a lot. I try not to, but I guess people have called me out before where I'll just kind of name drop something in there. And I do that because I'm proud. I'm proud to have gotten to do this. And I'll tell you, I'm going to name drop, Bruce Buffer, right? That's not easy. It's not easy to talk to someone that you've idolized. It's not easy to talk to someone who a million other people who are way more experienced than you, have better voices than you, are more intelligent than you, are more well-spoken than you, have done the same thing that you're doing with this person, right? And all that is circling in your mind as you're talking to them. And you have to try to be in the moment and try to enjoy it. And it's a hard thing to do, so that's why I talk about that stuff, because it means a lot to me, and it means a lot that I was able to do it. And again, it's guys like Keith and guys like Blake and guys like Sean and the MMA Prophet when he was on, and now the guys over at MMA Today and Tony, and it's just amazing. And I know, and Jeff, I mean, has been paramount too, and one of is the first guy that's big shout out to Jeff, and the first guy in the MMA community that I've actually met in person. A guy who I met through podcasting, who I got a chance to meet in person. He stayed at my house. We had breakfast and dinner and lunch, and did my other podcast, the Nicolas Cage podcast that I do. We did that episode, and just boy, I talk to Blake almost every single day. Keith, I talk to probably every other day. Probably one of the most brilliant minds in the MMA community, Keith. It's just incredible. I'm really fortunate, for every single one of you. So thank you very much. I know I'm going on pretty long. It's because I started doing this without really knowing what I was going to say. And the more I sit here and reflect, the more that I just realize how much this means to me, and how much I enjoy doing it. And if nobody was listening, it would suck, you would get to that, even though I enjoy doing this, no one's listening, and that sucks. But that's not the case, and just how crazy. Before I uploaded my first episode of the podcast, I didn't even have a Twitter account. And now I got 6,500 people on there, and we interact on it constantly. It's just incredible, man. It's just absolutely incredible. And I know there are so many names of people that I did not mention here because they're not jumping at the forefront. But let me just say some names again, because I really want to these guys have been so vital to my existence. First of all, Sean Ihaz, because I haven't mentioned him enough. Sean Ihaz, seriously, what I love about Sean is that every single breakdown we do, so Sean is the guy that does the breakdown podcast. If you don't listen to those, he's the one that does those. Zach is someone who, Sean is someone who will always draw a hard line on stuff, man. And you don't find people like that. You don't find people who are willing to put themselves out there and are willing to have to own up, to quote being wrong, even though everyone's wrong all the time. They're just wrong in secret, and then they gloat about the thing that they got right, and so I really appreciate someone who's willing to do that. I find that incredible, and I appreciate it more than I think he even knows. And he is one of the driving factors to why this podcast is so popular. Because at the end of the day, those breakdown podcasts are what a lot of people come to listen to. So if you're listening to this and you started listening to us because of the breakdowns, because of the stuff that I've done with Sean and the MMA Prophet before. And I had tons of other guests that came on and did the breakdowns too. But so yeah, shout out. Also shout out to Matt Hitchcock and Cody Sortman, who in the very, very beginning were there along with Josh to do some mixing. Danny Adams, who did some mixing early on. Thank you guys. I'm glad I know how to do my own shit now. I got my mixing board and everything. But before, the first 3 or 4 months I had a podcast, I didn't know how to do any of that. I had no idea. So I had to have other people do it for me. And that sucked. And it sucked to rely on other people. And I'm sure it sucked for them to have me be like, hey, you're almost done with that thing because I'm trying to upload it. You know what I mean? It just sucked. And so I appreciate all those guys. But Matt and Cody, we started this podcast together. And unfortunately, they weren't able to really keep up with the amount of episodes I was doing, because no one expected. I didn't expect it. I didn't realize that when I started doing this that I was like, hey, I want to do like 3 episodes a week, and nobody can commit to that. And, I would love to hopefully get those guys back on to do a show, but no, completely understandable. It's, I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what my goal was. Once I got going, I just kept realizing that nobody was doing it. Nobody was releasing several episodes a week. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the person that does it. And, yeah, it seems like it's worked out pretty well. And then, like I said, Blake, who I think has been paramount to MMA podcast in general. Keith, who as noted, I think is one of the best minds that we have around, and he's kind of an untapped source. Not a lot of guys, I don't hear him a lot of places, probably because he doesn't have a lot of time. He has a full-time job and a family and the whole shebang. But yeah, Keith and I roast each other every chance we get. But at the end of the day, that's someone who I respect more than just about anybody. And, Jeff and the guys from Average Joe's, Ryan, before David, David was also a nice guy. He wound up being a piece of shit, but that's okay. It's okay. It happens. Hopefully he's in a better place now. With everything, because I don't know what that whole thing was. But the Average Joes, they were really cool, and they were really supportive and picked me up when I think in a time when I was really struggling with wanting to do all this stuff, because it's a lot of work, and I was starting to, I had a young kid at the time, because my son was born about 3 weeks after starting to do this podcast. So my son was born November 28th. So my first episode was November 4th. So yeah, 24 days. So, and I kept doing episodes even after he was born, like that week basically. So, yeah, I all this to say, thank you. Thank you to everybody. I know I missed a bunch of names, but I just wanted to give a special shout out to the people that had really been there since the beginning. And also, of course, my sponsors. The Voball's been here for a while. Before I had the Harmony Acre Soap Company. Now I have the Glen Avenue Soap Company, which is a lot closer to home. I'm in Dayton, they're in Columbus. So both of those sponsors are still on board. The Voball, I know, is on board for next year as well. So that's really cool. Big shout out to Chris Vo, and thank you for continuing. So yeah. That's it. I'm done rambling. What was supposed to be 30 seconds turned into 10 minutes. That was not my goal. So thank you guys. Also, Kevin in the Octaves. That's the music beginning and end of the episodes. Kevin and the Octaves. Go check them out.